Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So Cynthia Riggs, I just learned about Cynthia Riggs recently. She was born a year before my mom in 1931. She's still alive today. She's had an extraordinary life. Hey, this is cool. Sorry. I just noticed her. She had a really wonderful life. She got a degree in geology. She was a geologist. She wrote articles for the National Geographic, went down to the Antarctica. She qualified for the U.S. fencing team, the Olympic U.S. fencing team. She got a Coast Guard license. She sailed across the Atlantic twice. She was married and had 5 kids. And at 65, she returned to school and got her MFA in writing, and has wrote a whole series of mystery novels she's from Martha's Vineyard, that take place on Martha's Vineyard, and the protagonist is a 92-year-old detective, amateur detective, who feels like she's 20. This is a woman who's lived a very alive life. Back in 1950, she was 18 years old, and she was her first job, and she's learned it's a job where someone got her at Scripps Institute separating plank. It was all men, boys, young men who were with her around her age, and they never had a woman, so they just started giving her practical jokes and giving her a lot of hard time, and she didn't know as a young woman how to handle it. So she said this wise older gentleman came in, and he sort of took her under his wing, under protection, and they slowly all left her alone. The wise older man was a whopping 28 years old, 10 years older than her, and they became really good friends. And so they were next to each other, and they had these paper towels, so they would write back and forth to each other all day in code, so nobody could read what they were saying. And she said it was lovely. It was 4 months of this job, and then she went off back to Martha's Vineyard and continued her life, as I've just given a little bit of her very full and rich life. She's in Martha's Vineyard. She's 81 years old, and she has this thought, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. I wonder what he's doing. 2 weeks later, she gets a package from him. She had not heard from him since 1950. She said, oh my gosh, we must have been thinking about each other at the exact same time. She opened the package, and in it are all the paper towels of all their messages that he had saved for 62 years. And he put a note, I still love you. I've never stopped loving you. Of course, that's a little overwhelming to receive, and she wasn't sure what to make of it, but she gets his address, and they start writing to one another. They're writing back and forth every single day for a few months, and finally Cynthia's friends are like, you gotta get to meet this guy. He's in San Diego, she's in Martha's Vineyard. So she's really resistant and terrified, but they pack up her stuff and they get her on a plane to San Diego. She said, I'm a mess when I get off. I have such cold feet. I'm sweating. I'm chilled. My body's going crazy. I feel nauseous. But he puts her at ease, and they get along great. And within that, remember, he's 10 years older than her. So he's 91. And they get along so well, he proposes to her. And she says yes. So he says, well, I'll come out to Martha's Vineyard. So he at 91 with his son, they get his pickup and put all the stuff in there, and they drive across country to Martha's Vineyard, and they get married. And they have a wonderful time. They knew going in that he had some health challenges, so they wanted to make the best of the time that they had, and so they had a ball, and she would wake up, and she said I would go get coffee, and there'd be a note. Say, good morning, love, just so you remember, you are being loved all day long. And then he'd leave her little notes in the utensil or tied or pinned to one of her blouses. She said everywhere. Always was leaving love notes. Everywhere they went around Martha's Vineyard, he'd kiss her. He said, we're at the deli, and he kissed me. She goes, this guy used to be so shy, and he's kissing me at the pharmacy, wherever we go. And then I realized he wants to leave memories of him kissing me all over Martha's Vineyard. What a love story. I'm just sitting there listening. This is the best story ever. And eventually, though, he does make his transition. And she said it was the best 5 years of her entire life. You already hear what a life she's led, but having that connection with somebody. And what she said was, he was ready a lot earlier than I was. He would have reached out, but I had a wall a mile thick around me, for she had been married for 25 years in a very abusive marriage. And at that point, she cut it off and said, never, 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 never again. So she felt that she had made herself so hard, a hard shell around her, that that would be something she could never experience again, because she had created such a hardness around her. Still lived life, but when it came to interaction with other people, hardness. But she said through his steady, consistent, passionate love, day in and day out, it just opened up her heart. And the best part of hearing her tell the story is she kept laughing. Like, she got such a kick out of her own story. I mean, it's not like it was hilarious, but she was just so delighted with all of it, with this joy. It was so clear her heart was open. She goes, I guess I'm not a hard shell after all. I guess I do still have vulnerability. And I feel like that's so much of what our spiritual journey is about. That this divine presence is loving us all of the time. Just like he had been loving her for 62 years, but she just was like, nope, 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 nope. Or that's not possible. I don't believe it's real. I don't have that's for other people. That's not for me. All the ways that we have of blocking ourselves from God, from this divine infinite love that is pouring itself into us in every moment of every day. And that when we just say yes, when she just starts saying yes, and by the way, she needed the help of her friends to force her to say yes, because she was still a strong no. And they're like, no, go, 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 stop saying no. They pushed her into her greater good. So we need one another sometimes to help us move into those areas that terrify us. And the biggest area that terrifies us is deep connection with other people. In the reading today, one of the things he says I would have a slight shift on, he talks about we all need a soul friend. I think we need soul friends. I think we are here to have many soul connections. And we open up to those soul connections when we open up to the vastness of the light, of the love that surrounds and unfolds us all of the time, because then we start to see it everywhere. And it can be confusing. What really kind of inspired the talk today, actually, was I have been doing some work on my crown chakra, which is, there's energy centers, and the crown chakras, the open up to the cosmos, above, below, everywhere. The vastness. I haven't spent much time on the crown chakra because one of my teachers, Paramahansa Yogananda, really focuses on the third eye. Like, even if you're pulling your energy up, you don't stop at the crown chakra, you come back down and focus on the third eye. And I think the reason why he does that is because the crown chakra is so vast, it can be almost confusing. Has anyone here read the Bhagavad Gita? Only a few of you, all right. Well, I would like to make that your assignment for the next, by the end of this year. And if you've read it once, make sure you've read it twice. And the best version is Eknath Eschwarn's translation. It's a brilliant spiritual book. By the way, the reason why people like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Charles Fillmore and Ernest Holmes read so much of the Eastern teachers is because so much of the Eastern teaching, not the religion part, but the inner spiritual stuff, they teach so much depth when it comes to inner spiritual awakening. And that's why so many Westerners seek God or spirit in the Eastern teachings to wake us up. The Bhagavad Gita is a wonderful example of that, and if you read a good translation, you'll see the connection of this isn't just sort of theoretical, but how it is alive in your own active personal life. Bhagavad Gita. And there's a chapter in the Bhagavad. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a warrior who's just like done fighting. They've had enough. They don't want to kill anyone else. and he's given up. And Krishna is his charioteer. Krishna is an individualized expression of God. He doesn't know that yet. And Krishna's explaining to him this path to God, all these different paths to God, waking up to God, and why it's important to keep participating, to not give up. Chapter 11 is the big moment. This is when he's been teaching and teaching and teaching Arjuna who God is, what God is, and who we are in relation to the path, all the many ways to get to know God. And then he said, well, he said, you've deserved it now. You've really been with me. You've stuck with me through all these chapters. I'm going to reveal to you who I really am. And he opens up to the extraordinary vastness that's beyond words. And it's everything. It's everything. And if you read the chapter, it's so vast, and it's even overwhelming to read it. And Arjuna's like, I got it. I'm so sorry I didn't see you, but please go back to your normal phone. Come back down. Ooh, that's too much. And in essence, that's what the crown chakra is. It's so vast. The energy's so high. It also comes down into us, and it can be very healing. But it's also so vast, which, by the way, can sort of mirror people on the spiritual progressive path. One of the things that we say all the time, there's infinite paths to know God. Every person has their own path to know God. Every religion is a path, but every individual has their own path. That can be overwhelming. That's a lot of paths. That's a lot of different versions of getting to the same thing. Do I go here? Do I go here? And if most of you have been on this journey for quite a long time, you know there's a gazillion workshops and teachers and programs, and it's unending. The crown chakra is unending. And that's when I got, as I'm being with the crown chakra, oh, that's why Yogananda focused on the third eye. The third eye is about the individualized expression of the divine. So he called it, because he was teaching to Christian audiences, and he came over in the 1920s, so he's trying to meet them. So he called it Christ consciousness. But you could be Atman consciousness, you could call it Buddha consciousness. It's the individualized expression of the divine. This is everything. And that ultimately isn't going to do us much good, because it's too much. We have to know who we are in that individualized expression of God. And this gets me to this word that I read. Actually, it was reading this word that got me on this trip. Well, first is the crown chakra, is the word coherence. We are all individualized expressions of God, which means that we each have to find our own coherence, our own identity as what I would call our soul. Spirit is everything, but we have to know our soul. And our soul is our individualized expression of spirit. Now, the interesting thing about soul is it's deeper than our personality. So it's not our Myers-Briggs, it's not our astrological sign, it's not our Enneagram number. Those can all be included in it, but that's not the depth of our soul. Our soul actually is beyond label. And that's why we have a hard time talking about it or understanding it. It takes a soul, it takes a deep inquiry to wonder, who am I as a soul? I think of someone like Francis Banks. How many of you have read Testimony of Light? Oh, more people have read that? Good. But if you haven't read it, that's your second reading assignment. So Francis Banks spent most of her life as an Anglican nun while she was here on earth. And eventually the Anglican nun gig stopped being deep enough spiritually, so she left that and started doing work at the psychic subtle realm. When she passed on to the other side, she had so connected with her friend at the soul level, she was explaining what it was like on the other side of the veil. And what was interesting, it's such a beautiful book. It starts off a little slow, so you have to be patient, but it's really good. Is it takes her a while to, first of all, she describes soul groups that were all part of these soul groups. And what's interesting is someone who's given her entire life to her spiritual path, she still didn't know what her soul group was. She was like sort of drawn to different ones. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, because Our soul group isn't, again, it's not something you can quantify. It's not like, I think, a musician's soul group, a teacher's soul group. It's not sorted out by career either. So it's not your personality, it's not your career. Well, what is it? And I think that's where this incredible power of relationship comes in. When we meet somebody, we can sometimes feel a soul coherence that transcends personality, that transcends a personal coherence. And it tells us and teaches us something about our own soul to help us find aspects of our soul that we may not have even known were there. So my first example in my own life that really woke me up to this idea is I was practicing seeing the Christ in people. Not just the God, but the Christ, the individualized expression of the divine in every person that I met, to really see who they were as an individualized expression. And as I was doing this, there was one person who I met who was so strong, the coherence between us. It was very intense. His life journey and my life journey were very different externally, but internally. So over a very short, brief period of time, like a month, we spent a lot of time connecting. And then he went on, and we couldn't get it because we both felt deeply the soul coherence, but we were definitely in outer life very different. And then he went off and he joined a monastery. At that point in my life, I had no idea what a monastery was. I grew up in an agnostic atheist home. I knew there were monasteries back in the Middle Ages. I did not know they still were in existence today. And I didn't really understand how they worked and why anyone would want to join one, because you can't talk, he couldn't talk, he had no more connection with the outer world. I'm like, well, who would want to do that? It was so beyond me. And so I was over the years, I started learning about they have Zen monasteries. An ashram in Hinduism would be sort of like a monastic life. Depends on the ashram. So I started learning, there's all these different forms of where people remove themselves from the world and get to know God. And then I started saying, the soul resonance, because as I'm reading, I'm like, this is me. And I'm like, this is my soul resonance with him. And what it taught me was about me. It was a part of myself I did not see and could not see because it had never been mirrored externally. Until I met him, I had never known anyone like this. And I didn't even know this existed, so I didn't know that part of my own soul. So moving beyond just the personality and connecting with somebody's soul, and if you start to feel we're coherent with everyone's soul on some level, because we're all light. So if you're immediately practicing seeing the Christ in everybody, or the Buddha, or the individualized expression of God, however you want to say it, the more you do that, you start recognizing the divine connection between all of us, and you're also going to recognize there's some more coherence with some people than others. And it can often teach you about your own soul that you didn't even know was there. And it can come through people you don't expect. If I met him now, he's now a nuclear engineer and the father of 11 children. If I met him now, I would never know about this monastic part of his personality. And it still exists, but all this other stuff has been layered on it. He's got all these kids he's got to raise. And being a nuclear engineer, he's got a lot of demands on his time. I would completely miss that part of the soul unless I'm really looking and connecting. And it's still very much there, but the only way I would know is if I'm practicing seeing the divine in him. If I wasn't practicing and I only knew him from the level of what his personality was like, what his job was, what his family life was like, I would never, ever see it. So the best way to be the light is to know yourself, your individualized expression, and then to also practice seeing that individualized expression in everyone that you meet, because it's there, it's in everybody, and you can't do it by career. You can't do it by personality type. You can't do it with, they have a different philosophy than I have, so there's no soul resonance. Yesterday was Jack's and my 22nd anniversary. Yay! And we we spent a lot of time last night talking about our gratitude. Because so we had that. From the beginning, we both knew. And we knew that we knew. But our human lives were so different. He's extroverted, he loves to perform, music guy. I'm not. I'm a more quiet, more monastic, keep to myself. And so it was like, we know, and yet there's all these things for us to work out. And so as we were just sharing all our gratitude, the things we were sharing is how much we have grown because of each other throughout these last 22 years. He has helped me so much in becoming me, and I know he will continue to do that, and I think vice versa. I was listening to a rabbi, and I probably should re-listen to it, but he was saying along the lines in the Torah that the way they look at Adam and Eve, I don't have the quotes, but that the purpose of it was not to keep, he was talking about loneliness. And he said, God didn't create Eve to keep Adam from being lonely. That was not the purpose. What Adam or God did was to create a counterpart to Adam. So he said a marriage can push each other into being their greater yet to be. He said, if you just wanted a friend, you can just sit next to each other and I'm comfortable now. You're there, I'm not alone. He said, that's not why we're here. We are here to draw in those people who we have this deep soul connection with, who are going to, by their very being, are going to push us to become who we are. So it's not always about, he said, and his basic idea is, and the more someone helps you become you, and you're committed to one another, and you're committed, and you help them to be them, and they help you to be you, the more at home you feel in your own self, and the deeper your intimacy can grow. So, I don't think it's just about marriage. I think it's about every relationship that we're in. Even if we feel soul coherence, but there's external differences, and maybe obvious ones, but if we continue to connect at that soul coherence, these relationships are going to help us become more of who we are. And I think that happens a lot in spiritual community. We come here, or there's so many spiritual communities, online, in person, wherever, book groups, whatever, where you feel a soul resonance. Basically, you have the same understanding of the world, you're spiritual but not religious, you have these different things. But even in a community, there's going to be some places where you feel such a deep soul resonance, but maybe not to that person's personality, or maybe not to the way they live their life. But there's something that's pulling you. What I would invite you to do is cherish that. Cherish those people who you don't necessarily feel comfortable with, but you know there's some sort of soul connection. And don't force it. If you don't have a soul connection, it's also completely fine to be in a spiritual community and love everybody and not feel a soul coherence. Totally fine. Then you don't have to force it. Just say, I love you, but I know you don't say it out loud, but in your head you recognize that there's not, and there's no rejection there. That is not rejection. It's knowing. It's self-knowing of who you are. But we are here to become more and more of who we are, and sometimes that means stretching and deepening in our own soul awareness, and we need other people to mirror aspects of our own soul that we cannot see, that are invisible to us. And so every soul connection is beautiful, just like when Frances was on the other side of the veil. She had lots of soul connections. I guess it gets confusing. I'll say spiritual connections. She was loved so many people. That's why she had a hard time finding her soul group, because she loved it all. I love this, I love that. But it took her to get quieter and quieter within herself to find her own soul group. And I believe that this is the calling that we have now in our world, where loneliness, they keep saying how loneliness is such an epidemic, and perhaps Loneliness has become more of an epidemic, I don't know. But because there are so many choices, because we've opened up and said it's all good. Everything is all good. Every path is right. There's no better path, and that's true, there is no better path, but there is a better path for you. There is a path that is specifically for your individual Christ Buddha expression. That is specifically for you. And it might have multiple dimensions, so you're going to find your soulmates, which doesn't mean you necessarily have to be friends for the rest of your life. The guy that I met, who I found a piece of my soul through, we haven't become friends for the rest of our lives, but boy, did he reveal something powerful in me that I never would have seen. So we're looking for soul connections, which again does not mean you have to marry them, doesn't mean you have to be the best friends with them for the rest of your life, but you're finding parts of your soul. And we only do that when we practice seeing the divine light in every single person that we meet. You will have healings that you don't even imagine to have. So the word for the day is coherence. Where we want, I believe loneliness and belonging start to shift the more coherent we are in our inner soul. The more coherent we are with our feelings, with our thoughts, with our beliefs, with our behavior, with our words, the more coherent we are in alignment and find those true soul connection within ourselves and in each other, the less the loneliness dominates us, the less we feel like we don't belong. Because when you know who you are as an individualized expression of God, not just one with everything, but as you know yourself, as you know yourself more and more and you accept who you are, that was the number one thing for me with Jack. He's always accepted me, which taught me to accept myself. You accept who you are as a divine individual, that you are not the same as all beings. Hi, Ruby. You are a beautiful angel. Sorry, the cat came in. You do have an individualized expression where you belong. And first and foremost, you belong with yourself. You have to be true to yourself. And sometimes we don't even know who that self is. That's it. Coherence. Coherence with yourself. Coherence with the world around you, but especially with those people who have soul connections. So you can deepen in your soul connections with them, which deepens your soul connections with yourself. And then the loneliness and the lack of belonging start to dissolve. We stay in the world of everything's possible, of everything, every path is the right path. It's all good. We stay in that spiritual truth, but at the same time own that I am an individualized expression of God. I am not here to be all soul paths. I am not here to live every single path. I am here to live the path that the divine presence has given to me. So that's the very last point I want to make. Because I always thought about that with Paramahansa Yogananda. For those of you who have read autobiography, I won't ask how many people have read Autobiography of a Yogi. But in that book, he's going to all these different teachers. And these are teachers who are amazing, who are manifesting all these incredible things. But he's like, that's not my teacher. That's not my teacher. Externally, you're like, these guys are amazing. They have a lot of truth. Why? It's something he's going from within. And then when he meets his teacher, Sri Yukteswarji, he knows it immediately. That's him. That's my soul teacher. That doesn't mean, this is why this isn't about rejection. It doesn't mean that those guys weren't good enough for him. They weren't his teacher. His teacher came from the divine. Our path, our soul path, is not something that we are creating. We are not making up. We are not choosing it. It is already who we are. We were born with this essence. That essence is who we are all of the time. He knew it the moment he met it. That's my teacher. Everyone else is God. Yogananda loved all paths. He visited saints and gurus and master teachers, and he loved them all, and he learned from them all, but he had one that he knew was his teacher. Jesus says in the Gospels, no one comes to me unless God brings them to me. Now that can seem really exclusive. I want to be in the clique. But I don't think I don't think he was saying it to exclude people who weren't. I think he had, which is resonant and coherent with his teaching, an incredible humility. And he said, not all people that are on this planet for all time are my path. There's certain people who are called to follow me, and Yogananda used to talk about this with him. He had students who were like kind of students who he would meet, and then there were the inner circle of people who really give themselves to the teaching of Yogananda. Jesus has the people who are really into it, and then there's different layers. But he knew, people have all these there's a million different spiritual teachers. He knew all that. He wasn't excluding them. He was just owning that these are that when we connect with the divine, with the one power, one the presence, we will find who our people are. Not because we created it, because we were born into that soul group, and everyone here has a soul group. Everyone here has a soul group. Everyone here has a soul group. And so with loneliness and lack of belonging overflowing in so many people's lives, I believe that all of us should get really serious about who our soul group is. Francis got really serious about it on the other side of the veil. We don't have to wait till we're on the other side of the veil. We can do it now. Who am I in that soul group? Start praying about it, calling it forth. Who is my soul group? And the more I ask about it, I find more about my own soul, and things start to shift, and I start to feel more coherent. I'm not fighting. I'm not arguing. I'm not rebelling. A lot of times I've come across in my journey rebellious. And what I know now, it's not that I wanted to be rebellious. I was just trying to find my soul resonance. I was trying to find my own soul coherence. And so the way I was like, well, it's not that. And it's not that. I like it. It's great. Good for them. But that's not my soul coherence. If that's where you are, what a blessing. Because now you know, I don't have to fight other people. I have to find my own soul coherence. And the more and more we find it, that's what heaven on earth looks like. The more we find our own soul coherence, our own individualized expression of God, and it takes courage, it takes bravery, it means to stand up for your soul, even when you can't verbalize it, even when it's not something you can articulate with a box or a label or this is what it is, but you know that you know, to stand for that, to continue to grow in that. The more and more every one of us does that individually, and of course we need this collectively as a culture, coherence would be really nice. The more we stand for that, the more we're creating heaven on earth. Be the light, be the light, be the light. But be your light. Be the divine, individualized expression of light as you. And when you do that, you bless me. We all become heaven on earth. Let's pray. Be the light. What a gift it is to remember that we don't have to force our soul calling. That we were birthed into this world as this beautiful soul essence. We have always been this soul essence. Nothing can ever hurt, harm, or endanger it. No choices that we ever made can limit who we are as souls, can add on to who we are as souls. That the fullness of our soul expression, our individualized expression of God, has been there from the moment we were birthed into this plane of existence. And what a glorious joy it is for all of us to be on this journey of self-discovery, of claiming our beautiful spiritual identity, not just our human personality identity, but our beautiful, soulful, spiritual identity. The more we know and the more we see and the more we feel in this divine presence, the more aligned we feel, the more harmonious we are feeling even now. We feel that alignment. Feel that harmony. We feel that coherence. Feel it now. It's right here. This soul presence that is you. It's right here. That soul coherence. That coherence of light radiating and pulsating as you as like in nobody else. And yet, there are other people who are mirroring that. Our soul coherence. And it aligns with our human coherence. That there's a total marriage in our heart chakra of the spirit and the human. And we are aligned with ourselves. We are aligned with others in our soul group that are all over this planet who have every different type of career, every different type of personality, and yet they are here. They are here now, and they are one with us now. Those beautiful people who came onto this planet at the same time we came onto this planet, or around the same time, and that coherence never dies. It never goes away, just as we saw with Cynthia and her beloved husband of 5 years. That coherence between their souls never died. All the choices in the world never limited. That's what it is with all of our members of our soul group. We are never alone. So we call forth our soul group here and now. We call forth our awareness of our own soul coherence. And all those beings with whom we share this soul coherence. They could speak different languages, live in different places, and they could be our next door neighbor. They can be in our family. They can be in our workplace. They could be in our line at the grocery store. Wherever we are, these beautiful beings of our soul group are here. They are with us. They may be nameless to us right now, but they are with us. And for those that we know are our soul mates, we just say thank you. Thank you for those beautiful, radiant soul friends that are walking this journey with us. And we open our heart and we say yes, just as Cynthia said yes, we say yes to this infinite love that is pouring itself into our hearts and our souls right now. We say yes to receiving greater and greater awareness and depth of who and what we are and who our soul friends are, so we may truly understand what it means to be in heaven on earth, so we may know it as a reality here and now, right in this moment. Heaven on earth exists. It is not a future date. It exists now, this moment, and we are the center of our own divine unfoldment and our divine knowing of our own beautiful, radiant heaven on earth. We claim it, we accept it, and we thank God for it in deep abiding gratitude for this extraordinary infinite good that has been pouring itself into our heart and our soul and our body our entire life, and today it's exploding out into our world as never before. So we truly know that we are never, ever alone. We always belong. We always have, and we always will. And we say yes to that, receiving that, to knowing it, to accepting it, and claiming it. In deep, abiding, everlasting joy, I just say thank you, God. And invite everyone here who is in agreement with what I say to join me in saying now. And so it is. Amen and amen. It is done.
I walk in God in all